For the next session, which is on unlocking the 5G revenue potential, I would like to invite on dais Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar, President, Aries Communications, Sridhar Chris, COO of Tikona Telecom, Amit Sinha Roy, Senior VP Marketing and Strategy at Tata Communications, Mr. Mudit Agarwal, EVP Strategy and Planning at Vodafone. And to moderate this session, we have with us Nitin Arora, Director Strategy and at PwC. So once again, thank you so much, all the distinguished speakers just now, and I invite the next session speakers on the dais, please. So before the next session starts, we have an industry perspective. Before the next session starts, can I request all the speakers to please take their seats? And before the next session starts, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Rajesh Gangadhar, Head of Wireless Broadband Converged Platforms at Sterlite Technologies, to share his vision and his experiences. Mr. Rajesh Gangadhar. And then you can join the panel, sir.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you for the opportunity. For those who don't know me, I'm a recent transplant from the US, where I've lived for better part of 3 decades and worked for various telco operators and cable operators there. My background is wireless, so I'm here to talk wireless. But again, it's something that we would like to discuss as we evolve in this presentation. One of the benefits of coming a little later in the presentation or the agenda is that a lot of the themes have been covered very eloquently by the speakers and the eminent panelists. So I'll just try to wrap it all up in one a short presentation here. So we've talked about the various use cases, the applications. For the first time, I think 5G as a technology, as an ecosystem, is going to bring several industry verticals into a wireless connectivity mode. And that just raises the stakes as far as connectivity goes, bandwidth requirements go, and what it will take to bring all of those devices that are now going to be connecting to the digital world. So as you look at connectivity, and the previous panel very eloquently talked about the requirements for fiber. And we are in the business of building, manufacturing, deploying, designing fiber networks. And we want to be the enabler for the future of India's 5G networks. And if you look at globally where the spend is, it's very interesting to note that India will be one of the top 5 to invest in 5G. And that is from an infrastructure perspective, from the overall ecosystem perspective. So if you look at what fiberization requirements are, and I think the Madam Secretary mentioned that today we are currently about 20 or 30% fiberized. So there's a lot to be done between now and when we really believe that the ecosystem has evolved to maturity. And if you look at where 4G is today, we'll all agree that there's still a lot of connectivity issues, and we really believe that for a 4G to be successful and then eventually 5G, we would need fiber, dense fiber networks all the way to the edge of the network. So what are we talking about in terms of infrastructure? Infrastructure, we believe that we will need fiber at the edge. We will need smaller cells. We will need compute and storage at the cell edge. And I think the speaker from Ericsson also mentioned this. These are some of the requirements. Again, we just have to be smarter about how we design the network, because each of the use cases will demand a different, different type of network infrastructure. And so then, as Mr. Shivasayalan said, that we would then need the core infrastructure and connectivity infrastructure to also adapt and evolve to support those use cases. So as we said, in terms of densification, we see 20 to 30% further densification of cells. Now, what does this really entail from a connectivity perspective? It just means that beyond cell tower backhaul, beyond small cell backhaul, we also start to look at buildings, premises that would need fiber. And so that presents an entirely new sort of challenge for us, and it's really heartening to know that the right-of-way issues have been resolved, and it's up to us to take that as a green signal to take fiber all the way to the edge of the network. And this is just an example as we design these networks to plan ahead, to future-proof what we would need in maybe 5 or 6 or 10 years, because obviously trenching is an expensive affair, and it has its own challenges. So you want to build a fiber network that is really future-proof and can last for most of your evolution plans as far as the network is concerned. And so when we talk about 5G as use cases, we also talk about 5G as a convergence of spectrum. Already the speakers have said that there's millimeter wave band to be leveraged. So holistically, when we look at networks, we look at use cases, applications, industrial verticals. We look at millimeter wave, mid-band, as well as sub-6 gigahertz band. So when we design networks, again, we design it to meet specific use cases and applications. It's also convergence of technologies. I mean, we have licensed technologies that have evolved from AMPS, which, again, we're in a relatively new, young industry. And what we see today is a convergence both from a licensed technology perspective as well as unlicensed technology perspective. The technology enablers are sort of common to both, and it is up to us to leverage both in order to deliver the value to the consumer and to really realize the potential of 5G, revenue potential of 5G. And we see disruption ahead. Stellite is very well known for fiber. We build fiber networks. We manufacture OF and OFC. But we're also evolving to embrace disruption. And what I mean by that, and this was a discussion in the previous panel, is that we're ready to help connect the most efficient way that we believe for the customer. So if it means fixed wireless access, so be it. We will bring the last hop as a wireless hop, and we're willing to take that risk and disrupt ourselves in order to provide the best solution to our customer. So as we take fiber all the way deep, and then based on the use cases and the applications, we believe that fixed wireless access may be a better or cost-efficient way to connect. And again, that's the analysis that we're willing to do and help in designing these networks. So again, our capabilities, we take from silicon to software, but again, we do designing, network planning, and we can also now look at hybrid networks that we can help our customers and the industry evolve to. And so we want to be a partner in this journey to see 5G as a successful rollout in India. So thank you very much.
Thanks. So we also had a presentation basically discussing the different use cases for 5G. So I believe the technology aspect and how it will be a game changer in terms of enablement through technology and the different use cases have already been discussed. So I'll open the discussion to the panel to understand where's the money. So how do we make money out of this, right? So the use cases are interesting, but are the customers ready? Are they willing to pay? We have on the panel companies which are into B2B, B2B2C, and B2C segments. So we'll have hopefully interesting discussions where we can get more clarity around the business case for rolling out 5G because it's going to require, as we have understood, a lot of investment. The 4 use cases, the primary ones we looked at in strategy and based on our analysis, the most 4 prominent ones are autonomous driving, IoT, which includes public safety, so there was a discussion around that in our previous panel. There is AI leveraging drones, so drones running around, let's say, big farmlands and guiding tractors on the field, which is a mix of drones as well as AI as well as autonomous driving. And the last one is leveraging virtual reality and augmented reality for interesting use cases like in healthcare, right? So you don't need to go to a doctor, and because of the throughput offered by 5G, we can have a consultation done at your home. It is probably relevant more in case of India, where healthcare is not prevalent everywhere, and there are villages, and I mean, a mix of this would be like smart villages. So yes, we have discussed a lot of use cases today, we have discussed technology, but show us the money. So maybe we can start with you, Dr. Bhatnagar, talking about what are the most interesting use cases you see and how do you see those can be monetized?
Yeah. So I'm from Aries Communication. We are a Silicon Valley company based out of San Jose. We started as a mobile virtual network operator, giving connectivity only to machines. And then we created a complete IoT stack, and we run end-to-end IoT solutions. Today, we have 12.5 million connected network devices on our platform. We get 2.25 billion messages from them every day. And we have 60 plus IPs of our own for machine-to-machine communication. And then we started in India. And as on date today, since last 1 year when I started, we have more than 100,000 connected devices in India. Okay. So whenever I start thinking about 5G and what it can do for me, so all kind of use cases I'm doing, utility, transportation, automotive, insurance, you name it, we are doing it, healthcare. So what 5G will bring to me? So what we have started doing is, okay, for 2G, 3G, 4G, I am generating revenue and I'm profitable. Okay. So all those kind of things people are thinking about whether IoT will happen, what is the money. So I am generating revenue and I am profitable in India. Okay. So now with 5G coming, and what can it happen? So we have already started doing some kind of pilots, discussion on the pilot in Qatar, which is the first country, first operator saying that they have already implemented 5G. We are working on some pilots. So what are the kind of cost I'll have on the device modules? What kind of cost I'll be able to save because of the connectivity? What price I'll be able to save on the battery? What price I can save on the field operations? And to be honest, I have created a complete framework for what 5G will do for us and whether my users will be happy paying a bit extra or will be able to get some more discount so that I can sell more. And that's the position where I am in. And if you think of a parking sensor, which I have to change right now in 3 years, will be going for 10 years, it will help me in reducing my operational costs. It will help me in creating some much more better use cases, whether it can be related to virtual reality or robotics or AI, and it will be able to help me in selling more. So it will definitely help me in revenue generation. So I am a live case where we are generating revenue, and my expectation is that with 5G, we will be in a position to do large-scale deployment at a lesser cost. We'll be able to charge less, so I will have an impact on my top line and bottom line together. But today, with the kind of use cases I am working in, I am able to run, and it is growing. So my expectation is that my number of connected devices in India will be touching more than 1 million by end of next year, okay, with 4G. So, we are quite ahead, and my expectation is that 5G will definitely help me in improving my top line and bottom line with new use cases, and the kind of expectation I have in terms of field operations, the battery, the usage, the speed, the customer experience, I'll be able to make more money. So I am a positive in this, and my expectation is that 5G is required, and sooner it is, it will be better for us.
So maybe, Mr. Roy, Tata Communication is a B2B company, right? So they had data center operations, which now partly owned by Temasek, STL. And so how do you see this? What are the use cases you see, and what is the revenue potential you see from a B2B perspective? Because I believe there is a healthcare division which is there now in Tata Communication, focusing specifically on IoT. So maybe you can elaborate further, what is the strategy there going forward?
You have certainly researched our company very well, thank you. Just to set the context, Tata Communications routes over 26% of the world's internet traffic, right? So that puts us right up there in terms of managing the internet itself. Whilst we are not a 5G player in the sense you won't see us applying for 5G spectrum, we are certainly providing the services that ride over this network even today on 4G, on LTE. In fact, back in 2013-14, we were rolling out VoLTE, Voice over LTE, as a service for the telcos to provide to the end customers. So when we look at monetizing services, we try to look at it through the lens of the customer. So what is it that our customers are looking for? What is it that their business challenges are? So when we look at it through our lens and see what's happening with customers, we primarily see 4 areas that they're focusing on, and this is common across B2B. So one is, of course, growth, right? So from a perspective of growth, not only within borders, but internationally. So we say borderless growth, right? That's something that most organizations are looking for. The next thing is in terms of managing customer experience. Growth cannot come without having a good customer experience, right? Then, of course, there is the perspective of managing business risk, right? Now, without managing the business risk, which is essentially around security, right, we will not be able to have a robust business growth or customer experience, right? And then productivity and efficiency. That rounds it up, because in order to be profitable, productivity today is a cutthroat world. So looking at it through these 4 lenses, there are multiple services that we have that are aligned to these in order to make us a digital transformation player, right, for the B2B space. So, I could call out 2 services in the interest of time, not more than that. So when you look at growth, Move Connect is a service that we provide in partnership with over 600 service providers, MNOs, globally, more than 200 countries, to provide a completely seamless roaming experience for our B2B customers. Now, we have also extended that to IoT. So even IoT devices that need to work across multiple geographies can now work seamlessly through this service that we have. So that's how we are already monetizing it on 2G, 2.5G, 3G, 4G. We're going to take it to 5G. The other part that I'll just touch upon is managing business risk. We have a full-fledged security portfolio that's available as a service for managing not only the network, but the application content right up to securing the device itself. So with the proliferation of data, with devices, we heard about the billions of devices, the content which is there, sensitive content for businesses, especially more so, it is now imperative that this is available as a service. So we are confident with services such as these, we would be able to, of course, monitor what we are monetizing now, but it would include, a manifold increase with the rollout of 5G.
So do you see like a quality improvement, customer experience improvement in the current setup you have? So as I can see that it's already enabled through 4G. With 5G, you are enhancing the experience. So that's one aspect.
Yeah, so let me just touch upon the customer experience. There is, of course, the inherent goodness of the network itself, the network experience, right? So whilst we do have capabilities of managing end-to-end network experience, we have tied up with, again, many service providers globally to provide sort of a virtual tunnel through multiple service providers. It's like a virtual VPN on internet, right? We call it ISO. So ISO connectivity actually gives the predictable, deterministic routing across the internet, which you typically get from a far more expensive dedicated line, right? So we have that capability today. We are providing that to our customers in B2B in order to give them a better experience of the network and the connectivity and so on and so forth, right? But our customer experience journey doesn't just end there with the connectivity layer. We actually enable our customers to work better with their customers through solutions like hosted contact center solutions, which are a layer above, which actually enable them to have better interactions, business interactions with their customers. So that's a layer above in terms of unified communications.
Yeah. So you think due to 5G, the unified communication layer will get further enhanced because of the features it brings?
Yeah, and that requires a robust network to deliver that.
Sure. So we'll come back to this, the whole discussion around the leap from 4G to 5G and how the existing use cases are going to get enhanced. I request Mr. Chris to talk. Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to come and listen to the industry and huge amount of learnings in terms of, how 5G can really, break new paradigms. I've been in some of these forums, and recently I was also in another forum where we were talking about Wi-Fi as a technology, and I see a lot of similarities in the discussion. Fundamentally, I like to keep my points into three paradigms that we should look at when we look at 5G today. The paradigm, which is the first paradigm, is something of the past that we as a country is carrying. And then, of course, the present, and then the future. So if you look at, and we heard, some of the other speakers also talking about how we've been extremely fortunate to have leapfrogged, what happened 20 years back or 25 years back. We were exactly in a similar situation. We were at less than 1% telecom penetration. Voice, we were a wait list country actually. You want a telephone connection, you could be waiting for years together and you could never get a telephone connection. So actually we leapfrogged that paradigm in a huge way actually. So if you look at where we left the wireline, we left it just there. It's just lying there. 30 million home wireline connections, and nothing happened because we suddenly discovered the power of wireless and GSM. And we just took off. And took off from 30 million to 1 billion users. And, that's a huge leap that we have taken in just a matter of 15 to 20 years. And I think we are exactly in the same situation when it comes to internet penetration today. Internet penetration is exactly in the same place that we left when we were in 1995. It's the same, the story repeating again when it comes to internet penetration. We are again in an internet-starved nation. While we have implemented 3Gs and the 4Gs, but definitely we are still we have the internet, which is one of the slowest internets in the whole world. And that's where actually the huge opportunity lies for a country like us, because we are a country which is probably one of the youngest countries in the whole world. We are a country which has got huge potential to consume, but then we have, and we have a country of very bright and young minds who are really willing to spend, their energy and time to go and buy that service that you would want to give them. So if you look at, I think the past, to clean up the past and to clean up what we left, the wireline in itself is a huge opportunity for us. So what did not happen in the last 20 years, 5G presents a huge opportunity to really leapfrog again with the kind of bandwidth, the kind of capacity, the kind of low latency networks that you could create, and you need not actually wait. Because if it did not make sense for you to, every time you sit in any business plan discussion, you will find that a wireline implementation will cost you anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 to implement per subscriber. Now, if you have a $5 per month kind of a revenue, where is the business case to go and deploy $2,000 of capex? How are you going to recover that? Now, this was the same discussion 20 years back, and even today, it would be even, because we are talking of of something which would have inflated, time value of money. So how would that $2,000, which was 20 years back, would be anything less when somebody says that there is the ROW costs have only gone up? So where is the business case to lay more fiber or to lay fiber to the home? Where is the business case for laying fiber to the home? So if $2,000 per home is the cost of laying fiber, and if $5 is what somebody is willing to pay, and it did not make sense 20 years back, how does it make sense today? And the fact of the matter is, the law of gravity is only applicable to data prices. Data prices are only going to go down. So there is nothing and nothing which tells you that the data prices are going to go up. They're only going to go down. So they started at $5 when you started 20 years back. They are at $1 today. And the same thing will happen for internet. So where is the business case to deploy anything? So I think 5G is actually bringing in a huge ray of hope in terms of saying that you could really choose how much fiber you really need to deploy. So do you really need to deploy? So you again have an opportunity to leapfrog, and you have an opportunity to decide where do you want to stop laying that fiber. And that is exactly what good engineers and good planners and good economists will tell you, that yes, it has to be something somewhere midway, and you need to really implement. So I think the first big opportunity is, like Amit mentioned, that even in the US, 5G is being deployed to connect homes. So there is this whole concept of cord cutters in the US. So people believe that they don't want any more wires. They just don't want any more wires. So there is this whole concept of cord cutters. So I look at the first big paradigm is that we have almost 50 million buildings, and we have almost 50 million SMEs who are waiting to get connected, who will very easily pay you maybe at least 3 times more than a mobile connection would pay you. So you have 50 million buildings and 50 million homes waiting to get connected, and if you're going to just wait for fiber to reach these SMEs, it's going to be taking a lot of time. So actually 5G gives you a huge opportunity to leapfrog and connect almost 100 million potential paying users, and they are really looking for these kind of networks, because you think of a stock exchange trader sitting somewhere in Mumbai. He really requires what you were talking of. He really loves low latency networks. He really wants those kind of networks which can help him trade more efficiently, better, and deliver more. He would not want to go and, you'd probably not want to put his server in a data center remotely and wait for some connectivity problem to kind of jeopardize his trade. So he's actually looking for these kind of applications. So the first paradigm is to see how we can really look at the past and see how we can really leapfrog from there. The second big paradigm is where we are today. I think we are today in a 4G era where we already have done 500 million smartphones, and a billion is ready to happen in the next probably 6 to 12 months. So where does this industry go beyond that? So with ARPUs anywhere between $1–1.5, investments already made and more investments to be made, traffic going up, CapEx requirements are only more. So where does this industry go from here? Where is the business case for us to put more money into this business? So I think the biggest other opportunity comes from the fact that actually, we are again seeing something very, very revolutionary, very a big change which is happening in the semiconductor industry. And I think That is going to drive the next big change in the way our lives are going to be lived. And if you look at, and if you were tracking the Moore's law, which says that every other year the amount of transistors that you can pack into a chip is doubling, or it is tripling, or 4 times. Now, the human brain is supposed to be, human brain is also supposed to be working like a transistor. And if you were to compare the human brain with a transistor, then we have 30 billion neurons in our brain. And these 30 billion neurons, if you were to replicate with a transistor, then the chip is probably going to surpass the 30 billion transistor very soon. So the chip, the semiconductor chip, is going to very soon surpass the human brain, and that is exactly the power of artificial intelligence. So in the next 5 to 10 years, the human IQ, if it is 100, average human IQ, the chip is likely to have an IQ which is equivalent to around 10,000. And look at where all these artificial intelligence is going to be deployed, and that's exactly what, one of my panelists talk about IoT. So where the mobile industry, if it is going to stop at 1 billion users, or 100 crores that we have in terms of people, as the number of users, the worldwide IoT penetration, which is likely in the next 5 to 10 years, is of the order of 1 trillion. So that's the power of the future that we are looking at, and what are these applications? Imagine a situation that, we would, as Indians, we would want that, we have seen a lot of terrorist attacks in this country. Now, imagine a situation, we are already becoming an Aadhaar country. Now, in Aadhaar, you're actually capturing the biometric of each and every individual, which includes a retina scan. Now, imagine a situation that you have somebody who's been scanned in Kashmir, and you want that same retina scan the moment he comes to Delhi Metro and he asks for a ticket. In a matter of few seconds, the ticket should be denied to that person, because he's looking into a camera, and instantly you want the network and the computer to immediately go and come back and tell you that yes, this retina scan matches with somebody you took in southern Kashmir, and he was probably a suspect. So, do you think you have today the capability to do that with the kind of barricades that you see before 26 January in Delhi? You can't. That's the power of IoT and 5G put together. If you create a database as powerful as that, if you have a group of stone pelters, now today you can't do anything but do some tear gassing. You could actually send a drone, you could put in a camera, you could actually take the retina scan of everyone who is pelting stones and capture that in your database. And next time you see the same person coming anywhere near any important installation, you could actually stop him. That's not taking away jobs. That's not something that human intelligence in the normal way can actually ever capture. And that's the power of 5G and IoT. And that's exactly the kind of application that, look at education. We want our children to be taught by the best teachers, but nobody wants to become a teacher. But if you have somebody who has got 10,000 IQ and he's a robot and he's teaching your children, you'd probably want him to teach your children more than anyone else. So I think the power of IoT, the power of AI, the power of big data analytics, and the power that we as a country in terms of our ability to produce more and more applications And for the size of the country that we have, this is a fantastic combination that is happening between the power of all these two or three things which are coming together. There is a huge opportunity which is going to throw up for us in the coming 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
So, Mudit, maybe you can tell us more from a Vodafone perspective. What are the most monetizable use cases you see? So there are interesting use cases which were mentioned earlier, but we need to understand how are the revenues going to get created from those?
Sure. Happy to discuss how can we monetize the opportunity we see ahead. Let me do this in 2 or 3 parts. So part number 1, where do we see the application and the money coming from? So if large number of manufacturing sectors, large number of SMEs, large number of our startups, if we see they are working in quite an inefficient environment, whether it be supply chain or whether it be the assembly line or whether it be the value chain, everywhere we see there are large number of uncertainty in getting the raw material, to getting their product shipped to the market, to getting their markets to the customers, large number of inventory stacking up and incurring cost. So any manufacturing sector, so whether it be a steel industry or whether it be mines or whether it be any agricultural sector, agricultural production, which is going to godowns and storage, cold storage facilities, all of this entire logistics, the big trucking companies which are running across Indian roads, trucks being stuck on roads for different kind of reasons, and they need help. So if you look at it, the entire supply chain, the entire logistics, the entire manufacturing, the entire industry can benefit from a good platform kind of connectivity. And I'll come back to this point in a minute. Now, if you look at other things, if you look at health sector, it can also similarly benefit from these kind of connectivity solutions. Now, if you talk about hazardous activities, several mines being hazardous, etc., artificial intelligence, along with the kind of platform connectivity that we can bring to bear, can also create a lot of value, much higher production, much higher efficiency, and at a much in a much more protected environment. Nothing is worth a human life, and in a much less hazardous manner, we can achieve the economic gains. So if we look at these different use cases in the industry, we see a large amount of value that can be created. Now, if we change the gear and if we look at smart cities, if we look at connected cars, if we look at sensors, so whether it be a blood pressure monitor or whether it be a security in the house or in a corporate sector or whether it be the access management, all of these access points can create large amount of support system in the society, and a lot of inefficiencies can be taken out, a lot of insecurity can be taken out. So those happen to be some of the use cases which will create value in the ecosystem. Now that said, let us see what does it take to do it. What does it need by way of technology, and what is 5G actually? So if you look at 5G is a set of technologies. So starting from core. So some of us discussed, you require a core which is cloud core, which is cloud native core, so that it's extremely efficient and which can be sliced. And those slices can be given on demand to different use cases. Because today, if we have a core which is a boxed core, which is very costly and which can only do one purpose, and which is not fungible and not agile, then none of these applications will ever be viable. So the thing number 1 that we need is a very intelligent core. Core is the intelligence which sits at the center and drives all these flows and all this intelligence and does all the authentication. So that core has to be very agile, has to be cloud native, has to be distributed, and has to have ability of being network sliced. That is part 1. Part 2, we have to have API gateways, which then open up this core which can be connected to large number of people who want to sell, large number of people who want to buy these services. Because once they can benefit from this intelligence, then and only then the ecosystem starts developing. So that is point number 2. Point number 3, the entire flows which are happening cross country need to run on intelligent transmission backbones. Now they need to be programmable. They need, so that we are not wasting transmission capacity when it is not needed. And We call these programmable networks, programmable transmission networks. That is what we need to build. And that is part number 3. Part number 4, once you come to the radio part of the network, getting more capacity out of network requires new technologies, like massive MIMO technologies, which are 5th generation technologies. Now, those technologies are already being deployed, and they significantly enhance the capacity of a radio site. We know one site is the biggest cost, and spectrum is the biggest cost. Now, massive MIMO increases the spectral capacity of a site by 3 to 5 times today, and will be making it 5 to 7 times tomorrow. So we get more capacity per spectrum per site. That is what it does to the radio. It reduces the latency of cost. But then, if we look at other aspects of radio, so one aspect is to get capacity out of the radio, but second part, if you look at it, there are large number of these sensors. Imagine a lamppost, imagine a house with large number of sensors. All of these sensors needs to be connected. Today, all of these sensors are talking on a different protocol. They require different muxes to connect them, and this is what is making the cases unviable. Now, if I put all of this together, I put these 3 or 4 points. Now, if I put this together, what does it take to make this value really come out of the textbooks and into the market? Number 1, we need to take the cost out of the system. How will we do it? Rather than for every sensor building a different protocol, we need to have a standardization and a harmonization. Then and only then, imagine if you are coming from an airport to the center of Delhi, and if everybody builds a road for himself, which is an independent road, the cost will be very high. Instead, you build one road, and that road is shared, then the cost would significantly go away. So it requires standardization of the protocols of if we want to go from 5,000 towers in a city to 20 million users in a city to 200 million sensors in a city, if that's the kind of connectivity we are thinking about, first thing we need to do is think about standardization of the protocols, point number 1. Point number 2, we need to have programmable networks, which are autonomous, which are programmable, and which are not wasting capacity, and which can be programmed. Third, you need to have a core which can be sliced on a dynamic basis. And many of these standards are still being debated. So for example, programmable IP standards. The young models, for example, have still to be formalized and standardized. And all these devices and sensors which talk to each other, they need to be standardized. Cloud native architecture needs to be standardized. Now, all of these things need to be done. And unless they are done, all what we are talking will continue to wait, because this is fundamentally needed to take the cost down crashing. I'll again say the analogy again. Every flow has a different road. From airport to the center of the city, you build 1,000 roads, it will not work. You need to have one road which is standardized, which is well protected, which is well secured, and which takes the multitude of flows which are flowing through, and that is how we generate efficiency. Now, none of this needs to wait. This requires the different ecosystem stakeholders to come together, work together, and that's what we are trying to do in different bodies. And that is what will really make the thing come alive. Vodafone globally is a pioneer in IoT. Is the leader in IoT space, whether it be industrial IoT or whether it be consumer IoT or whether it be any space in IoT, Vodafone is a world leader. In India also, Vodafone Idea is leading this space quite a lot. When it comes to cloud native, we have deployed the largest number of cloud native core solutions. We have programmable transmissions deployed, and now we are working very aggressively with international standard bodies to standardize some of these standards. And the moment we are able to do it is when the cost will come down. What 5G also brings is additional frequencies of a spectrum, additional big chunks of a spectrum, which create capacity and which is very welcome, but that is only one small part of the equation. And that, I know all of us get carried away with getting more higher frequencies and higher chunks of a spectrum, and yes, it is valuable, but that's just one small part of the whole puzzle. We have to get the whole equation right if we want to create efficient platforms to which our SMEs and startups can connect and economic value can be realized.
Sure, so thanks. So what we have seen is interesting cases for B2B as well as B2C. We have also talked about how 5G is part of a wider technology ecosystem for enabling different things, semiconductors and other topics we discussed. What we also saw was that how from 4G to 5G, it's also bringing some incremental benefits like customer experiences. But in your view, from your customer side, from your end customer or from your direct customer, are you seeing the need or an ask for either in improving the current offerings you are having or maybe a disruptive business case? So is there a pilot within Vodafone or within Tata Communications or within Aries you're running currently, which you would like to talk about, which has a compelling business case and has tremendous revenue potential? Of course, we discussed various cases around healthcare and public security and all those topics. But from your customer side, do you see a demand?
So the answer is yes. We see the demand, and not only pilots, we have done several commercial deployments. So several aspects of 5G technology. 5G technology is a set of number of technologies. So massive MIMO started as a 5G technology, but we have inducted them in the LTE advanced technologies already, and we have deployed large number of massive MIMO across major cities in India already: Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, etc. We have deployed them in hotspot areas like metro stations, like CBD areas, like high footfall areas, and we see in sports stadia, etc., and we see very good traction on that. So that is one example. Second example of 5G technology is cloud native core. So we have deployed that, and we have seen massive uptake in the data consumption. We are deploying agile policy engines. We have deployed programmable IP. Yes, so many aspects of 5G technology we have deployed not only on pilot but also on commercial basis. And yes, we see significant benefits.
So globally you're talking about?
I mean, so I'm talking about India. For now, yes, globally, of course, but even in India, we have deployed significant. I think India, we have deployed the largest amount of massive MIMO, cloud native cores, etc.
So from Aries perspective and from Tata Communications?
Yeah. So from the Aries perspective, the need for 5G or moving towards that is more coming not in India right now, to be honest, but from the international perspective, there are places in medical industry mostly that are looking for the new kind of, the modules to be attached to the devices so that, the speed can be improved. How can we have better things? And, I can't name the customers with whom we are working on doing all this, but there is one which we are trying to do the neurosurgery using IoT. Okay, and virtual reality. And these are the places where there is a need for this.
Willingness to pay from the end customer.
Correct.
And the customer is also there, right?
Yeah.
Just one thing, if I can add to it. See, let us understand what is the use case and what is 4G and what is 5G, because there might be interchangeable use of words.
Yeah.
So IoT, you want to connect a sensor, you want to connect a medical application, you can do it pretty much on the existing technologies, and they're pretty efficient at doing it. 5G brings you new frequencies. Right? Now, those new frequency gives you new capacity, and that may be welcome. But IoT actually doesn't need capacity. IoT extremely lean capacity applications, right? So, and there are millions of applications: mines, roads, trucks, logistics, you name it, right? Agriculture production. All of this doesn't require capacity. So, IoT deployment is lacking not because of 5G, right? I mean, 5G is just a pipe. You can have a 4G pipe, you can have a 5G pipe, it will work equally well.
No, so switching on something on and off doesn't require capacity, but something like neurosurgery remotely.
Yeah, so maybe I can throw some light on that, and exactly that. So from an IoT perspective, we've rolled out in India the LoRaWAN, right? The LP WAN, low power WAN. So that's the use cases you're mentioning right now, Nitin, in terms of you want to control the temperature here, within the room, the lighting, and so on and so forth. Those do not require heavy data transfer, right? So it's just intermittent, periodic transmissions of few kilobytes, and then it can act on that. And that is a use case that's available today. But then there is autonomous vehicle, for example, or the remote surgery, right? That requires gigabytes of data a second, right? In order to control that device or to control that surgery. And for that, you do require a network which is going to give that last mile connectivity wireless with that throughput and the low latency, because we cannot, if there is a car or a vehicle traveling at 100 miles per hour, we cannot have a latency in case there is an obstruction in front, right? Yeah. It's got to take the action immediately. So there are different use cases for the thin data devices and the thick data devices, if you may call it, in IoT. So we've been straddling across both from Tata Communications. Like I mentioned, we have our low power wide area network deployed right here in India. So that gives us the capability to provide those solutions, and we are working with partners, with application providers, as well as have solutions ourselves. And then, of course, we're deploying. We will be deploying the narrowband IoT as required by our customers. Right?
Okay. No, so thanks. In the interest of time, we'll have probably time for one or two questions now. Any questions? Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, my question is to mobile operator, Vodafone, Modit. My name is Ashwini from Ericsson. So the information that is available to us is that we have 5 to 10% share of connectivity players, another 10 to 15% for the platform providers. And given that majority of the money is in the application side, and by 2020, at least the information to me says that it will be vertical solutions end to end. That will bring money. Horizontalization, with which we started in 1M, 2M kind of thing, that will take quite a long time. As an operator, what is your plan? Now you're going to have a 5G core, which will provide you service-based architecture. It will provide you all flexibility with cloud-native things. How do you plan to monetize this opportunity? That you get some pie from the application provider. Are you planning to tie up with them, some of them, to build end-to-end things?
Sorry, can you say the last sentence again, please?
Are you planning to tie up with some application providers or the verticals to build end-to-end use case and monetize that?
Let me try to answer this because, we are a platform company selling the IoT solutions. So in India, we have already tied up with Airtel, BSNL, before that was Aircel, and we are also working with Vodafone. So all of them, because of their enterprise customers, they are trying to take our platform, our solutions, to provide the end-to-end IoT services to the end customer. For me, it's, maybe Airtel or BSNL, and then they go to their enterprise customer and try to sell the end-to-end solution. I'm not having an L1 support help desk, I'm not having a connectivity, I'm not having a deployment field operations, and they bring so many things together, and we with the platform, IoT solution, and sometime with a device partner, go together as an end-to-end one-stop shop. So majority of the operators outside India started doing it. Vodafone is doing it globally. And, it's a extreme high jump on their ARPU. Okay, the top line increased significantly because it's the end-to-end solution. It's a recurring cost, recurring revenue. So it's a very beneficial for the operators. So many of the international operators have already done it. People are doing it in India. Out of the, the 4 which are there, we are tying up already with 3, and we are selling it. So operators are doing it in India as well, and they're trying to see how can they increase their ARPU levels using the IoT business. So it's already started.
So the answer is yes. Yes, answer is yes, we will do that, as Mr. Bhatnagar very rightly said out. And you are right, we need to build this ecosystem, bring the intelligence, bring the customer, who's the enterprise customer, bring the connectivity, and bring the entire use case together. And yes, absolutely, we are doing it quite aggressively in India also, and we will take all the support to do it better.
Lead is being taken by the platform provider. He is putting entire ecosystem together and comes to operator to provide the underlying connectivity. Is it my right understanding?
The way we are thinking about is there are 1,000 number of IoT areas, right? We cannot build intelligence for all the areas. So we have selected 8 or 10 niches where we are going to go and build our platform. For other areas, we will be the platform providers, and the intelligence, the application will be brought in by our ecosystem partners. So it would be areas where would be we will own the platform and the application, and there would be areas where we will just own the platform. But we will not be only connectivity providers. We will be connectivity plus platform providers.
Right. Thank you.
So thanks everyone. I think we are already out of time and the lunch is waiting. I would suggest that if you have any further questions, you can reach out to the panelists. So thank you again, all of you, and thanks again.
Thanks so much, Nitin, for so beautifully steering this panel. Again, I think we had very little time and there's so much more to be discussed, but I'm sure all that is for another day, another forum. Before I let you go, can I invite Mr. Sivasalam to present small token of momentum to all the speakers here, and I can also request Mr. Rajat Mukherjee to join Mr. Sivasalam on the stage, please.
Sir, this is your privilege. I don't know why he's asking.
Yeah. And we have a group photograph, please? Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of the first half of the day. As you know, we have overshot our time for the last session, so we will have to cut short our lunch break and reassemble here at 2:30.